Hi everyone, just jumping on to talk to you a little bit about mineral oil. So we sometimes hear this word and it's one of the things that Arbonne don't use in our products. And I just want to explain to you a little bit about what mineral oil is and why we absolutely say that it's something that we genuinely recommend you do not use in your products. And honestly, go away now after this and check the products in your house, because I did and I was genuinely horrified. So first of all, what even is mineral oil? Sounds quite nice, isn't it? Minerally. And if you look on the back of your products, it'll be called various different names, but it'll usually be something like paraffin liquidium, petrolatum, or white mineral oil. So those are the words to go now and check your products. And it's generally in anything that is like a moisturizer. So your face cream, your body lotion, body creams. It can also be in hair conditioner. It's also sometimes a solvent, so it might be in other face creams, makeup products, things like that. So it is worth looking across all of the personal care products that you use. So what is it actually used for? So it's always positioned that it's good for moisturizing. It can be good for conditioning, they say, for your hair. And as I say, it can be a solvent to dissolve other ingredients. It can also be a food additive, which is, you'll see in a minute why that's a bit of a weird thing to do. So this is something that has been used for a long time, for decades. It's been used in food and in cosmetic products. And it is considered at the moment, we say, I'm just reading it, considered generally safe is the best that is currently described for this product. And there are an acceptable legal limits of how much it says that people should be able to consume or to absorb through their body, which is up to a total of 10 milligrams per kilogram of body weight per day. I'm not quite sure why they think that is the safe level or what's going to happen to you. One would question if you have more than that, but there are acceptable legal limits of how much you should be able to absorb or eat. And it has been reviewed many times by, in the US, the Food and Drug Administration, who are the people that oversee everything, and it's been looked at in the EU and in the UK, and there's something called the Personal Care Products Council, and there's the Cosmetics Director of the European Union, and these people, they keep re-looking at the use of mineral oil because people keep flagging up potential issues that they think that mineral oil is causing to people's bodies. Obviously, it's one of those things that's very hard to fund research into problems with something like this, and you'll see why in a minute. So this is something that you will find in many of your products, and even things like the Eczema Society will flag it up potentially as being something that you can use products that have mineral oil in as being a great hydrator for your skin. But why do we say that this is something that you should not use? Okay, so first of all, where does it come from? This is from crude oil. So the thick black goo that comes up out of the North Sea or comes out on container ships into Port Talbot in Wales, or those places where you see that they have the big oil refineries around the coast of the UK, or obviously in America, our other markets. So that thick black goo that comes up out of the oil rigs is transported back to land, and they have these big oil refineries where they heat the thick oil, and then depending on what level you heat it to, you can make petrol, diesel, aviation fuel, paraffin that goes into lamps that people used to use in olden days. You make plastics, you make a whole lot of different chemicals like paint and stuff like that, have things that come from this. You can make things that, red diesel for agricultural equipment like tractors and things like that. So it comes from oil. Okay, so that means that a few things. One, it has no actual goodness for your skin because, as you can imagine, it's oil. It's an oil product. It sits on the skin because when they do that separation of the oil, there's a variation between larger and smaller molecules, and that's why you can separate them out in that process, which is called fractional distillation, if anyone's interested. But it is too large to really work with your skin, so it forms that, what we know is that greasy layer. So if you've ever tried Vaseline or something like that, you rub it on your skin. It says paraffin liquidium on the outside of, petroleum jelly, it's called, isn't it? It sits in that greasy layer on the outside of your skin. So it doesn't actually absorb down into your skin. It just makes that kind of seal over your skin. Also, as you can imagine, it's not a sustainable product. This is coming from oil. We know we're trying to move away from fossil fuels, so we need to be moving to sustainable products. And that's why we use things like shea butter, like coconut oil, because those have actual goodness. They work with your skin. They absorb down into the layers of your skin. They genuinely hydrate and nourish your skin. And they don't just sit smeared on the top. And also they are sustainable. There are these ongoing questions about the safety. So we know that other parts of that fractionation process that makes things like petrol, diesel, engine oil, lubrication, those are considered to be carcinogenic. They are known carcinogens. So why, even though at the moment people say, oh, this very refined mineral oil is fine for use in cosmetics and in food, why use it? Why use something that is part of a process that is not sustainable, and we know that the other parts of that process are carcinogenic? So we just don't know what the future holds. But let's go on a precautionary principle of don't use something that might one day be proven to be a bad product that we shouldn't be using. And the last thing is, it is flammable. I mean, it comes from oil. Like, you can, if you've ever tried to light a fire on a scout camp with some Vaseline and on some cotton wool, it goes up a treat, because strange enough, it is oil based. So things like emollients are now sold. We have to be sold with a leaflet explaining that you need to be extremely careful if you ever put on like a cream or an emollient that contains mineral oil, because it absorbs, it rubs off in your bed, for instance, into your clothing. It gets absorbed into the fabric. And then, because now we often wash at 40 or below, temperature, and that oil does not come out with the fabric. And over time, just more and more oil builds up until you have a fabric that is completely flammable, because it's containing all that oil residue. And that there are, I can't even remember the numbers now. It's a lot of people, something like 50 to 100 people in the UK over like the last 10 years have died in the UK because they were involved in fires where their bedding and their clothing went up in flames from, say, a spark or a cigarette or a match or a spark out of their fire or something, and they literally just combusted because of this oil that was stuck in the fabric of their clothing. So it is a flammable thing. It says if you use these sorts of things, you should be changing your bedding regularly. The UK government leaflet actually says ideally daily. So if you know someone who uses mineral oil, who uses emollients on their skin, if you put them on your babies, your kids, I used to put those things on my children for their itchy skin, and what I then did is I swapped to a product that wasn't irritating their skin, wasn't creating the dryness, because it didn't have sodium lauryl sulfate. That's another thing, speak to your consultant about. And then I was smearing on this mineral oil that was not helping my child, and then I switched to clean washing products, and then for my children, that was not irritating their skin, and then I switched to genuinely nourishing creams on their skin, and the transformation was amazing. My children have never then had itchy, dry skin ever since. It takes a little while, because obviously the layers of skin have to rebuild and regrow and come up. We all know that takes time. If you have an injury to your skin, that it has to grow, but after that change, it's absolutely incredible. So just remember, go back and check your products for paraffin liquidium, petrolatum, white mineral oil. And remember, there are better products out there. There are better oils that nourish your skin, that are sustainable, that actually work with your skin, that are not flammable, and that there are not questions around the safety of it. So why not swap? That's what I thought. I was like, why wouldn't I make the change?